Self-induction by Madam Rosmaya. What does self-induction mean? Self-induction is defined as the induction of a voltage in a current carrying wire when the current in the wire itself is changing. In the case of self-inductance, the magnetic field created by a changing current in the circuit itself induces a voltage in the same circuit. Therefore, the voltage is self-induced. Okay, consider a circuit consists of battery, solenoid, and switch. So we are going to discuss the phenomenon of self-induction at the moment the switch is on and also at the moment the switch is off. So we start at the moment the switch is on. At the moment the switch is on, the current starts to flow through the solenoid. So there is a change in the current value, which is the current is increasing. Next, from the formula B equals to mu naught Ni for a solenoid, the magnetic field B also change. So when I increasing, B also increasing. Next, from the formula magnetic flux linkage equals to NBA, there is also a change in magnetic flux linkage because the B is increasing. Next, from the Faraday's law formula, EMF induced equals to d psi by dt. When there is a change in magnetic flux linkage, EMF will be induced in the solenoid. We call this EMF induced as a back EMF. The self-induced EMF produced in the coil will oppose the rise of the current. That means the direction of the induced EMF is opposite to the applied voltage. Self-inductance does not prevent the change of current, but it delays the change of current flowing through it. Okay, next we discuss the phenomenon of self-induction at the moment the switch is off. The current stops to flow through the solenoid. So there is a change in current value, but this time the current is decreasing. Then from the same formula of solenoid, B equals to mu naught Ni. So if I is decreasing, B also decreasing. Then from the psi equals to NBA, there is also a change in magnetic flux linkage because B is decreasing. Next, from Faraday's law formula, EMF induced equals to d psi by dt. EMF will be induced in the solenoid. The EMF induced in the coil is in such a direction as to oppose the fall of current. So this means that the direction of the self-induced EMF is same as that of the applied voltage. And again, here self-inductance does not prevent the change of current, but it delays the change of current flowing through it. It slows down the drop of current. So the conclusion, at the moment the switch is on, if the current in the coil is increasing, the self-induced EMF produced in the coil will oppose the rise of current. That means the direction of the induced EMF is opposite to the applied voltage. And at the moment the switch is off, if the current in the coil is decreasing, the EMF induced in the coil is in such a direction as to oppose the fall of current. This means that the direction of the self-induced EMF is same as that of the applied voltage. So for direct current, back EMF is only induced during the action of switching off and switching on. If we change to alternate current, back EMF is induced all the time and keep on changing direction. Okay, now if we plot the graph I against time, so at the moment the switch is on, the graph will be a curve, then a straight line, the current become constant, and at the time the switch is off, the graph is back to a curve. So when the switch is on, the gradient in the graph is decreasing because the back EMF slows down the growth of the current. So at the moment the switch is off, look at the gradient of the graph, it is decreasing because the back EMF slows down the drop of the current. And when the current becomes steady, no more back EMF is induced. Okay, now compare the graph I against time with the graph back EMF against time. Okay, at the moment the switch is on, the graph back EMF against time is drawn at the negative side. Okay, why? Back to the previous slide, if the current in the coil is increasing, the self-induced EMF produced in the coil will oppose the rise of current. That means the direction of the induced EMF is opposite to the applied voltage. That is why back EMF is plotted at the negative side. When the switch is off, the graph of a back EMF against time is plotted on the positive side, same as I against T. Why? Because at the moment the switch is off, so the current in the coil is decreasing, the EMF induced in the coil is in such a direction as to oppose the fall of current. This means that the direction of the self-induced EMF is same as that of the applied voltage. So therefore they are same in direction, so the back EMF against time graph is plotted on the positive side. Okay, now compare the gradient of the graph back EMF against time. The gradient is larger. So why the gradient is larger? It is because the time taken is shorter here. So according to the Faraday's law, EMF induced equals to d psi by dt. So when the time here shorter, therefore the EMF induced or back EMF will become greater. Okay, that's all for now. We finished this topic, the introduction of the self-induction. The end.